put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the fall!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Friday, June 28th. It's 8:35 p.m. Vegas time right now, 11:35 p.m. Eastern time. We usually bring you the Sick Podcast at around 10 p.m. Eastern time, Monday to Friday. But of course, the NHL first round of the draft took a little bit longer than usual. And then by the time we had a chance to talk with everyone, Demidov, Hage, Kent Hughes, and get back to where we're podcasting from right here in Vegas, we're ready to go. It's better late than never. What a big night in Montreal Canadiens history. We have been looking, we've been talking about a top-end talent, a playmaker, a superstar, a goal scorer, a guy who has the ability to change a game like that. And the name that has come up over the last year has been the name of Ivan Demidov. And I know one guy who is the president of the Ivan Demidov fan club is Grant Hughes. He's been talking about him. And folks, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. Because one of the things I've been telling you since I've been here in Vegas is if Demidov is available at 5, the Canadiens will pick Demidov. He is their guy. He is the one that they want. And as a matter of fact, Kent Hughes admitted tonight that they didn't look at Celebrini because they knew they had no chance at Celebrini. And other than that, the number one guy on their list, Ivan Demidov. Our NHL draft coverage 2024 is brought to you by Betway. Betway, a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on Betway.com or scan the QR code to join the action. Must be 18 and over and play responsibly. A couple of days ago, I spoke with Ivan Demidov. And I said to him, what's the story with you and the Canadiens? He said, we met a couple of times. And as a matter of fact, we meeting with them tomorrow. Oh, yeah? Tell me how it goes, I said to him. So yesterday, I make my way to the Canadiens presser, and it's Jeff Gordon who's talking to the media. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you something, all right? I've been doing this for 22 years. A lot of people were wondering, why is Jeff Gordon coming out to talk to the media? Why isn't it Kent Hughes? And I'm going to tell you why. Because Kent, unfortunately for the Canadiens, but fortunately for us members of the media and members of the fan base, Kent gives you a little bit more than Jeff gives you. So they brought out Jeff to play poker. Somebody sent me a message after I asked Jeff Gordon yesterday about the meeting with Demidov. How did it go? And Jeff said, first time we're meeting with him. His English is pretty good. It's all right. Pretty impressive. He tried to downplay everything. And I was getting messages like, first of all, why are you asking about Demidov? There's no chance he's going to be available at 5. Well, I asked because he was, number one. Number two, I got a bunch of other messages saying, Jeff Gordon doesn't sound like he's interested in Demidov. That's a bummer. It's too bad. We as fans, we wanted him, but it's not going to happen. Folks, he was playing poker. And you know where you play the best poker? In Las Vegas, baby! Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Jeff Gordon was playing poker with everyone. I didn't buy it. I knew he was playing poker. I knew they wanted Demidov. I knew if he was available at 5, they were going to draft him. And then, let me bring up a tweet of a chat that I had with Kent Hughes. And here you have it. Habs GM Kent Hughes says he and Jeff Gordon did not go to the Combine in Florida 2 weeks ago to meet with Demidov because they didn't want to make it obvious to other teams that they were that interested in Demidov. says Demidov would have been their pick even at number 2, says he's a top-line player, says he's a game breaker. Should be noted that the Canadiens did send their 2 scouts, Bobrov and Martin Lapointe. But Kent Hughes says, if they go, and I go, and Jeff goes, we're basically telling everyone in the National Hockey League, Demidov is the guy that we want. They didn't want that to happen. They downplayed everything, and they got their guy. And then earlier today, the Montreal Canadiens made a trade. They traded 3 picks for 1 pick. They traded pick 26, they traded pick 57, and they traded pick 198 to Los Angeles. And in return, the Canadiens got pick 21. And earlier today, at 11:42 a.m. Vegas time, 2:42 p.m. Eastern time, I did this. Big podcast live in Las Vegas, brought to you by Betway. Earlier today, the Montreal Canadiens made a trade. They traded pick 26, 57, and 198 in this year's draft to Los Angeles. In return, the Canadiens got the Kings pick number 21 in this year's draft. Obviously, the Canadiens have someone or something in mind with the pick. Keep an eye out on centerman Michael Hage, 6'1", 190 pounds. He's a right-handed shot out of Mississauga. He grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan, and yesterday he was awarded the E.J. Maguire Award of Excellence for competitiveness, character, and athleticism. The Canadiens are very high on Michael Hage, very high on him. But most scouts have Michael Hage going anywhere between pick 15 to pick 22. Will he be available at pick number 21? The Canadiens are going to have to be lucky. They might even need a horseshoe. And as a matter of fact, as it all turns out, he was available at pick 21. And with the 21 pick, the Montreal Canadiens selected Michael Hage. Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Also want to thank all of our sponsors, Energy Transportation Group, Bittt, Tibi, and Playground. We'll get to them in just a second. Do we have Grant McCagg? Did I say Grant Hughes at one point? I don't hear you, Grant. You hear me?
That's a nice compliment, Tony, that you were calling me Grant Hughes there.
Yeah, you know what? It's been a long day. It's been a long afternoon. It's been a long couple of days because, as you can see, we came here to work. We did not come here to gamble. We came here to work. Work has been put in, and once again, Kent Hughes got his guys. He wanted Demidov all along. I'm not going to tell you that Michael Hage was their only pick at pick 21, but what I can tell you, and Kent Hughes admitted it, is that they had Michael Hage ranked a lot better than 21. They were hoping that he was going to be available. By the way, they were also high on Sacha Boisvert, who ended up going 18th to Chicago, so he was not available. But I know that some out there are saying, you know what? It's too bad. Cole Yzerman won 1 pick before Michael Hage. Based on the information that I have, Hage was actually higher on the Canadiens list than Cole Yzerman. So I think the Canadiens are really, really happy with their picks. Grant, I have to ask you, you who knows these players a lot more than I do, I'll tell you that right now. Everybody knows that. Are you happy with the Canadiens picks?
Oh, well, Tony, I wore the...
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. The Canadiens gear. Look at that.
I only do that when I'm happy with the Canadiens.
Yeah, but you know what happened the second the pick was in, right? The second the pick was in,
I yelled.
The sick was in.
Yeah, there you go.
The sick is in. The sick is in.
I yelled at the screen when they picked Demidov.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy.
And for those who love the Celine Dion, actually, the great Celine Dion coming out and making the Montreal Canadiens selection, Chantal Machabé told us probably about an hour ago that the National Hockey League asked the teams to try to be creative with their selections in terms of how they were going to be able to present it. And Chantal had the idea actually to reach out to Celine Dion. And I believe she contacted her son, René Charles, asked René Charles to ask his mom. Celine happened to be with René Charles when the phone call came in, and Celine said yes right away. So there you have it. Celine Dion announcing the Montreal Canadiens pick. That was pretty cool, huh?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I was just smiling away. It it was like I had a tear almost in my eye. It was very emotional seeing her up there making the pick, and makes up for her being in the Bruins dressing room there in that one time.
Speaking of emotional, I have to tell you, it's happened to me a couple of times in my career. There's been a couple of moments where you interview athletes who have gone through a really tough time or sometimes even a tragedy. And I have to tell you, for those who are not aware, but I believe most are by now, it was Michael Hage's parents grew up in Montreal, specifically in Nuns Island. And he still has his grandparents in Montreal. He still has members of his extended family who, by the way, are here in Las Vegas and are actually been staying at. And so I've had a chance to see Michael Hage on a couple of occasions over the last couple of days. And most are aware by now, but if you aren't, so Michael Hage's parents, his father grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan. At one point, he moved to Oakville, and then I believe Michael was born and raised in Mississauga. And very unfortunately, tragically, Michael's dad passed away almost 1 year ago in a swimming pool accident. His dad loved the Montreal Canadiens. Michael loved the Montreal Canadiens. As a matter of fact, he talked about one of the greatest moments of his life was when the Canadiens came back from the 3-1 deficit to the Toronto Maple Leafs a couple of years ago in the playoffs. And he talked about one of the worst moments he had as a Montreal Canadiens fan was actually when Carey Price got hurt in the semis versus the New York Rangers. So Michael was a big Montreal Canadiens fan, and his father was his biggest fan, and he lost his father. His father died at a very young age, and his dad pushed him to be the hockey player that he is and the person that he is. Yesterday, Michael Hage was awarded the E.J. Maguire Award of Excellence for competitiveness, character, and athleticism. And he would have wanted nothing more than Michael to be drafted in the National Hockey League 1, and more specifically by the Montreal Canadiens 2. And his dad got his wish, and you'd have to think that he's up there smiling right now. It's an amazing story.
They interviewed him on Sportsnet there, and asked him about his dad, and he was very emotional, and it was tough. He was crying basically on camera there, and it was really, really difficult to see.
He had tears in his eyes the entire time that I was talking to him.
Brad,
I want to get to Michael Hage in a minute, but let's get to Demidov, and let's start with him because he was the first pick of the Canadiens at 5. Kent Hughes said that they didn't look at Celebrini at all because they knew he was going 1. The first player that was on their list was Demidov. So if they were going to pick at number 2, they were picking Demidov. I know watching some of the videos that you put up over the past year, you can see the elite talent.
Yeah.
For you, is he the second best pure talent or maybe even best pure talent in this draft?
Yeah. I think he's perhaps the best pure talent the Canadiens have drafted since Guy Lafleur. So I can't think of anyone with more talent, pure talent. His skill level is just it's right up there with anybody that they've drafted since Lafleur. So I think he's going to excite fans like Kovalev, or even better. I think he can put up more points than Kovalev did, actually. And I just think they landed for me, he was the second guy, without a doubt. Scouts that I've talked to, number 2 on their list. They say the same thing, probably the more skilled even than Celebrini and Seneca, who went 3rd, by the way, Tony. Did you notice that?
I did notice that, yes. I know that you've been the president of the fan club, and you told everyone that if you're going to see him at 13 and 14 on people's lists, I'm telling you, this guy's got a solid chance to go in the top 5, and there he went, number 3 to Anaheim. And props to you, Grant, on that one. Look, I saw Joel Bouchard on the way out. Saw many people on the way out, as a matter of fact, but Even ran into Michael Buffler in the elevator. Let's get ready to rumble. Who made the pick of the announced the pick of the Philadelphia Flyers, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
A lot has been made about Demidov playing in the MHL, and some people say it's a weak league and it's easy to dominate in that league. Joel Bouchard said to me, and Shane was with me on the way out. We were talking about Demidov. He said the MHL is not an easy junior league. That's his opinion. He said it's not an easy junior league.
No, there's a lot of skill there. I made a tweet about it today. I think it's better than USHL, and on par, like a good Demidov's junior team, for instance, would beat most teams in the queue. I think, maybe all of them. So I don't get it's a weak league. And you've asked me about that before. It's not like the CHL has 50 some teams, and the Russian, out of all the Russian best juniors, there's like 20, 25 teams or something. So I mean, it's a different style hockey, but you could say the same thing about the KHL versus the NHL, right?
Yeah.
No, and I posted his points highlights today.
Yeah.
On Twitter. There's a 14-minute video. I subscribed for a couple months so I could post longer videos, but the whole thing's up there. Every goal that he scored, there's no junior goalie that's stopping that. None. Like Russia actually has developed more goalies than Canada in the last 2 decades. So they've got better goaltending, I think, in the MHL than in Canadian junior. So there was no Canadian junior goalies that are stopping his shot. And it's going to be the same in the NHL. He's got a rocket of a shot. You got to watch him and watch, don't say, well, it was just like that with Slav saying, well, the Olympics were watered down. Well, watch him play. Look at what he did in the Olympics. Don't talk about what's watered down, this or that. Just watch the kid play and scout him.
These are stupidities that I hear. When everyone talks about it watered down, yeah, but if you're still the best player in the league, what does it say about everyone else?
That's right.
You're still the best player in the league.
Well, Cale McCarr played in a watered down league. Is he turned out okay?
He's turned out pretty good. Hey, a couple of nights ago, Anthony Martineau, my colleague at TVA Sports, was my guest right here on the Sick Podcast. And by the way, he had a one-on-one with Ivan Demidov earlier today, and Demidov told him that the interview went great with the Montreal Canadiens and all that stuff. And Anthony was saying that he had a chance to speak with Demidov's agent, Dan Milstein of Gold Star. And Dan told Anthony and said, by the way, you can go on the record with this. I have no problem. I feel very comfortable in saying it. That if Ivan Demidov played in the CHL this past season, Dan believes that he would have been the first player to go in the draft.
Well,
now, look, he's his agent. I get it, but isn't that something?
I didn't know that, Tony, but I said in one of my tweets today, when people were saying, it was a watered down league, I said, he would have tore up the CHL this year. Absolutely tore it up. He'd have been the leading scorer in whatever league he was in. He is pure skill, Tony. The Canadiens hit it out of the park. I couldn't believe that Chicago passed on him. Anaheim, well, Seneca, I get it because I love Seneca too. I had Demidov 2 and Seneca 3. So
he looked like he was shocked, by the way, when he was selected. He looked like
well, I mean, Bob's list, every list but mine, I think had him 8th or later. So you look at all the public lists, and that's what you figure. But
you deserve a lot of credit for that, Grant, and that's why you should all subscribe to Recruits and recruits.ca. And for the amount of work that, by the way, you put out a draft guide this year that I think was, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was 80 plus pages of material. It was, I haven't seen draft guides like that in a while that have that many pages, that much information, that much material. It's really something. And once again, folks, subscribe to Grant, support him, and above and beyond everything else, it's quality work that you're getting. Grant, over the last couple of years, some people say this, and I say some. You don't win with Russians in the playoffs. You win with Canadians or you win with North American players. Now, every time you say that, you can come out with an example that's not obvious. You know what? Tampa Bay did okay with Nikita Kucherov for a couple of years, right? And there have been other players as well.
Tarasenko in St. Louis, and
Correct.
you could keep going.
And Tarasenko even most recently with Florida. But
That's
having
right.
said all of that, T.J. Ginla went number 6. He went one pick later. Like, based on everything I hear, T.J. Ginla is going to be one really tough player to play against in the playoffs. And he'll probably actually even elevate in the playoffs. He's got this competitive fire. Talk to me about the competitive fire of Demidov. Is this a guy, in your opinion, that come playoff time will be there as much as he was during the regular season, or he won't be as effective in the playoffs?
Well, you just have to look at his stats from the last from this past playoff. He was far and away the best player in the playoffs. He stepped up and led his team to a league championship. He's highly competitive.
He's over 6 feet. Can he be intimidated physically, in your opinion, or should the Canadiens be looking to surround him with bigger bodies going forward? And I know there's going to be a couple of big ones in Doc and Slafkovsky, but if you were in the Canadian scouting department, Grant, would you say we got to maybe insulate him with another guy here? Would you do that, or you think he'll be fine on his own?
I think he'd be fine on his own, but I also think that he'll probably be playing on the first line with Slafkovsky down the road. Yes. So he'll be insulated. He'll have big Slav there in the other corner, he's he's going to be just fine. No, he's very, very strong and competitive, great motor. There's no weaknesses to this kid's game. Like, that's one of the things that I like about him more than Michkov from the year before, is that I just think he's a lot more well-rounded player. He's bigger, a little more competitive, better away from the puck. He's going to help you win, and I think he'll help you win at playoff time. There's no red flags on this kid, and I mean, Bob Rod's dad's going to be there, right? Rottenberg is going to play him. He'll play in the KHL next year. He's not going to get buried. He'll probably be a regular, I would think, because last year in the preseason, he was great in the KHL, and I was surprised that they even sent him down. But then he got injured, and so they kept him down for the rest of the year. But he was KHL ready last year. He could have played for SKA and been a top 9 player easily last year. So look for him to get a big role next year. I think I was hearing somewhere today that they have to have two players under 20 on their team. Yeah. So he's going to be on the team, and he'll play, and he'll contribute, and I think he'll produce, and he'll be very exciting to watch, and only have to wait a year on him. So typically you're waiting a year for a pick anyways, at least. So what's the difference whether it's may as well be in one of the best leagues in the world for 1 year. Yeah. He'll develop, and it'll be good. Everything. I think the Canadiens the most skilled player since Lafleur that they've picked in the draft. So, I mean, I don't think you could be any happier about that.
Look, if this player doesn't pan out to be the player that we're hoping that he will be, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going on record right now in the Sick Podcast. You can save this. It's going to be in a library. We'll be able to access it forever. I'm not going to criticize the pick, okay? I'm going to tell you something, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, all right? I grew up loving offensive players. Guy Lafleur made me fall in love with the game of hockey and made me fall in love with the Montreal Canadiens, and that was watching Guy Lafleur at the end of his career. I was born in 1972. My first memory was Lafleur scoring against the Bruins. Believe me when I tell you that, because my dad let out a scream that just marked my entire childhood, a scream of obviously joy and elation when Lafleur scored. So that's my first memory. But obviously Lafleur's best years were 76, 77, 78, 79, and even before 76. But once it got to the 80s, it was a downward spiral of his career. And then 83 or 84, he announced his first retirement. And Lafleur was my favorite player growing up. My next favorite Montreal Canadiens player was Matt Snaslund, but obviously didn't love him the way I love Lafleur. My next favorite Canadiens player growing up was Stéphane Richer. And Stéphane Richer scored 50 plus goals twice in a 3-year span. I loved offensive players growing up. And it's funny because I was so inspired by these players that my approach in life is actually on the attack and not on the defense. And when I work radio, television, and podcasting, you'll notice that I'm on the attack more than I am on defense. I love offense. I think the Canadiens have been starving for an offensive superstar. Say what you want about Alex Kovalev. I know a lot of people, he rubs some of them the wrong way, but you have to admit that Kovalev had the it factor. He had something that other players don't have. And even if he fell asleep for an entire game, if he woke up for 20 seconds in one shift, he changed the game, or he lifted everyone from their seats. This is what they're getting here. And I couldn't be happier. Let's hear from Kent Hughes.
Demidov last year. Like, we knew about Demidov last year. Right. Yeah. Right. Like, before we made our pick last year, we were already pretty excited about this guy, depending where we ended up, in the regular season. So this week or 2 weeks leading up to it, and particularly the last 4 days, was probably the busiest that we've been in terms of exploring. What if this happens? What do we do here? If this happens, what do we do here? And, at one point, Marty looked at me and goes, "You got this all written down? Because it's getting complicated."
A spreadsheet.
Yeah. So, if you're asking me of all the ways things could have played out today, this was option one for us.
All right. Do we have anything else from Kent Hughes via Demidov? Any chance? Yes. No. Okay. That's okay. Kent Hughes, he said that Demidov hit it out of the park in the interviews as well. So then he was asked, if he would have failed the interview, would he have still been your pick? And he said, it's a good question. But he said from a hockey perspective, for sure, he was our pick. But yeah, you know what? It excited us actually meeting with him. We had already heard some really good things about him in terms of his character, in terms of his personality. And he basically said he hit it out of the park. He talked about a Russian kid coming over and meeting with a team based in Canada, speaking English, which he picked up the language in about a year and a half. He talked about the character of Demidov, the personality of Demidov, based on everything he heard, the work ethic of Demidov, a guy who always wants to be better. And Hughes, once again, he came out and he said, this guy's got, he was asked, can Demidov be a game breaker in the National Hockey League? And without any hesitation, he said, yes. Then they asked him if they made it easy, if Bob Rob maybe asked him a couple of questions in Russian. And he said, no, I don't believe so. And he said, no, we did it in English. And anyway, so he was blown away. So you have him playing on a number one line with Suzuki and Slavkovsky. Going forward, he's going to play in Russia over the next year. Still not determined whether it's going to be the MHL. You believe it will be the KHL 1 year, and then he comes over and straight to the National Hockey League after that?
Absolutely. I think he could play in the NHL next year, but obviously he's not going to get that chance. But, yeah. Oh, yeah. 1 year in the KHL and then NHL for Ivan, for sure.
Let's put up a list that I got here from Elite Prospects, put up a list of the top 32 in the National Hockey League. And by the way, folks, before I read out these names, I have to tell you what an experience this was at the Sphere in Las Vegas. I've never been in an arena that looks like this. It's actually like being in something like you're looking into the future 50 years from now, with drones flying all over the place, by the way, over the team's tables. But the background of the Sphere, which went all around the entire arena, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It's one of those, you have to be there to actually see what it's all about. And the National Hockey League, it still wasn't your best production tonight, but it's probably one of the better ones they've had in a while. But in terms of the setting, in terms of the place, and this is the last time the National Hockey League is going to have an in-person draft. Going forward, the players are not going to be there. They're going to be at a distance like the NFL, are they not? Yeah. The teams won't. The teams will be in the war rooms and stuff like that. And I like the way the National Hockey League does it. They can improve the spectacle of it. There's no doubt about it. But anyway, to be here tonight with the teams all there on the floor, all their tables, you see scouts getting up, GMs getting up, talking to each other, working on trades. You can tell when it's going down, you're witnessing it. It's unbelievable. By the way, we asked Kent Hughes if we can expect a trade. And he says he looked at us and he said, well, I made one. I got pick 21. And then we said, no, that to add to your team. And he says he's been working the phones, and it's a possibility here. So, he said that he'll probably be even up tonight. The hamster's always going. He's always ready to get something done to try and improve the team as much as he can. So, you know what? There's not going to be a dull moment over the next 24 hours here. So, Macklin, Celebrini, no surprise. San Jose at 1. Artem Levshinov, Chicago at number 2. Beckett Seneca, Anaheim, number 3. Caden Lindstrom, number 4. Pierre LeBrun put something up. Do we have it? I think Pierre LeBrun put something up regarding Caden Lindstrom. Look at this, Grant. I don't know if you saw it. Could have been fireworks at the top of the draft tonight. Hearing that the Blackhawks offered next year's first-round pick, unprotected, plus another pick in return for the 4th overall pick. Believe it came pretty close, but the Blue Jackets passed. They really love Caden Lindstrom and couldn't pass up taking him. Wow. Can you imagine Chicago would have had a defenseman and another centerman? So Caden Lindstrom goes to your buddy Trevor Timmins' team. Grant, is he the ultimate power forward in this year's draft?
Yeah, I think so. They had great. I loved the feature that they had on him today too at Sportsnet. There, his mom raised him basically single mom. One of those deals, right? But he, very interesting small town boy. He has for the fam FTM FTF he had on all his, on the inside of his suit jacket and stuff, and it was for the family is what it stood for. So he's I think he's a really down to earth, great small town Western Canadian boy. And Chicago could take a leap next year, right? I mean, Bedard, if Bedard hits superstardom next year, and some of the other young talent, Korchinski and a few others, are adapted to the NHL, there's a chance that pick's not in the bottom 5. So
yeah,
I wouldn't have done that trade either if I was Columbus. You're getting a 6'3" physical, the best power forward center in the draft, and you're going to trade out and maybe not get something that close to that next year. It didn't make sense for me.
By the way,
Columbus
I saw
to do
a
that
picture yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, Grant, but I saw a picture of Caden Lindstrom besides George Larac. Now, I work with George at BPM Sports. I see George often. George is massive, massive. Like he's like a brick wall. Caden is just every bit as big.
He's put together.
George Larac presented him yesterday on social media as the next Eric Lindros. Now, I don't know if that would be quite the specimen there, but man,
well, I don't think he's got that. He's not at that skill level, or he's not a playmaker really and a puck possession guy, but he's going to score goals, hit, forecheck, skate, play a real power game, and I think thrive at playoff time, just like Fantilli. They've got a 1-2 punch there that not many teams are going to be able to handle down the road. Tony, I can't hear you.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that, Grant. Are we good now?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. All right, I was just saying, Celebrini 1, Levshunov 2, Seneca 3, Lidstrom 4, Demidov 5, TJ Ginla 6, Yakimchuk 7, Catton 8, Perrick 9, Siliev 10, Sam Dickinson 11, Zeev Buyam 12. He dropped. I mean, based on what we were hearing and what we were reading, is there a reason why you think he slipped as much as he did?
Just, I think the top 12 was kind of, there was somebody that was going to slip. Like even Dickinson, a lot of people thought was going to go top 6. And Saleyev, a lot of people thought he was going 3rd, right? So all 3 of those guys slipped a bit, really. But I thought, for the top 5 guys I had ranked, and the top 4 were forwards. And as things turned out, 6 of the top 8 or 5 of the top 8, 6 of the top 8 ended up being forwards, which I don't think a lot of people were expecting. But Catton, biggest surprise for me was that Seattle, they've added all of the top draft talent that they've added has been forwards, and they haven't really got that stud defenseman back there. And there was four staring at it right at them that went right bing bam boom right after them, and they took another center. Which one of Benier's, Wright, and Catton is going to go to the wing? Or did they draft Catton to be a 3rd-line center? Or is Wright going to be the 3rd-line center? Or is Benier? I don't understand. That's the one pick in the top 10 that kind of surprised me. Even though I like Catton, 116 points, you can't argue that.
Yeah.
But certainly not really sure what their long-range plan is with that, and why they passed on the defenseman for another center.
Yeah, and for everyone who says that Berkeley Catton is small, look, I'm 5'9.5", and I stood next to him. He's taller than me. I believe he's about 5'10 and a quarter. It's not big by any means, but it's not as small as I've heard some people actually say that he is. Okay. And I have to tell you, you know what? I kind of thought it was going to be more of a forward heavy draft, because based on everything that I was hearing, Grant, I didn't think that the defensemen were actually separating themselves from each other. I thought there was a lot of them that were right and so I thought that if teams waited, they could say, okay, you know what? I can wait for another defenseman, because the guy that I'm going to pick at 15, I believe, can be just as good as the guy who's picked 8th. So I'm not surprised in that respect, but there are some interesting picks here. Okay. Sacha Boisvert. He's here with so many people and so many friends, by the way. It's pretty amazing to see. What do you make of him, Chicago 18th?
Well, I ranked him 32, so that was a little higher than where I put him, but that was based on intel that I got from the scouts that I know one that have him in the 3rd round, Tony. So for him to go 18th, it surprised the scout that I talked, I asked him about it later, said, what do you think of that? He said, geez, that one really surprised me. So, there's a lot of good things to like about him. He put up good numbers. He's got some offensive skill. He's a tough kid. He boxes. There's all those angles, but skating's got to improve. Don't know if there's top 6 skill there at the NHL level necessarily, but Chicago's got a lot of, they've got a lot of skill in their top 6 going forward, and maybe they're looking at him being their all-purpose kind of 3rd-line center on a good team, which is a great piece too, right? Yeah. 3rd-line center is one of your 8 most important positions, I think, on a team. So you get that around 20. And if he can bring an all-around game and maybe drop the gloves every now and then and be tough and all that, that's not I understand why they took him. They needed to complement the smaller guys that they're going to have in their top 6.
All right. Okay. I bumped into Trevor Connolly earlier this morning, and I pulled him aside and I said, I'd like to talk to you. I said, there is the president of the Trevor Connolly fan club who actually is in Montreal. His name is Simon the Snake Boisvert. And I said, I call him Userpent. But I said, anyway, he believes you're a top talent in this draft. And he was pretty excited to hear that. And he said, thank you very much. Well, as it team that won the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago, the Vegas Golden Knights made him their first round pick, 19th overall. Your opinion of them picking Trevor Connolly?
Yeah, I mean, I had him ranked, I think 20th. So that's about where I was expecting him to go.
Yeah.
Just that by the time late teens, 20 hit, it's kind of hard to pass on him, right?
Yeah.
At some point you have to just, because he's got top 10 talent. Like Snake's not wrong about that there's top 10 skill with this kid. So, hey, the rich get richer, right? He's obviously going to a good organization, and they did their homework on him. He's going to Providence, which is a top-notch college program, and hopefully he matures and he stays in the straight and narrow and has a successful career.
1 year ago, Cole Yzerman was one of the three names that were coming up probably more often than not. And here we are tonight on the night of the NHL draft, and he was selected 20th overall by the New York Islanders. And if you took a look at his face when he was selected, and usually players are so happy to be selected, but every now and then there's a couple of players that dropped, and Cole Caulfield dropped in his draft year. Pat Brisson expected Cole Caulfield to go in the top 10. He went 15th to the Canadiens. I'm sure Yzerman expected to go, in the top 15, and he actually goes 20th. Is this the same situation where I understand that Cole Yzerman is obviously bigger than Cole Caulfield was, but ultimately, do you think it came down to teams look at him and probably believe that if he doesn't score, he'll have a hard time of impacting a game?
Yeah, I think they saw a bit of Oliver Wahlstrom, kind of a one-trick pony that if he's not scoring, what's he doing? Maybe he's not contributing a lot out there. And it's ironic because they're sort of similar players, and they both played for the national team, the U.S. national team, development team. They both put up huge goal scoring numbers, and they were both drafted by the Islanders. But he's like an August birthday, Tony. So he's not even 18 years of age yet. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of time for maturing there. He's going to BU, great program. I think that they'll work on the rest of his game and get him up to snuff with what what he needs to do to get to the NHL. And I mean, you can't argue with that pick at 20. The value's there. If he puts his game together, that could end up being a steal. Like what Craig had him 5th overall on his list? Craig Button?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so and then kept calling him the best goal scorer in the draft, and thought at one point Montreal should be picking him at 5 even. So he's I think the value's great. By 20, you got to be picking him and hope that he rounds out his game. They had some good comments about him. He was also been compared to Owen Tippett.
Okay, yeah.
Similar type player in junior, where he drove you a little crazy because he a little selfish with the puck, just thought, shoot. Didn't do a lot more, wasn't back checking a lot, stuff like that. Florida picked him, hadn't matured yet. They trade him, and now he's found his game in Philadelphia. They've signed him long-term, and he looks like a key piece for them going forward. So,
yeah,
you hope that a light switch goes off and that they figure it out. And that could be the case with Yzerman.
All right. Now the Canadiens, once again, earlier this morning, they make the deal with Los Angeles. By the way, just so you know, folks, the Los Angeles Kings and the Montreal Canadiens are staying at the same hotel. All right. So I've gone to their hotel a couple of times over the last couple of days. And, the trade probably happens anyway, because all you got to do is just pick up a phone and call. But sometimes it facilitates things when you walk into a coffee shop and you see the GM of one team and the GM of the other team, and all of a sudden they just sit down and boom, and trades like that happen. So they're staying in the same hotel, and the trade happened. So the Canadiens trade pick 26, pick 57, and pick 198 to Los Angeles in this year's 2024 NHL draft. And in return, they get pick 21. And with pick 21, they had a couple of names written down, but Michael Hage was at the top of their list. They were crossing their fingers he was going to be there because he was ranked a lot higher than that. And when he was their guy. And if he was going to be gone, they had other scenarios as well. Before we get to Kent Hughes, I want to let you all know that, of course, the SIG podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the hot summer days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. And once again, it's also brought to you by Playground. Play lucky numbers at Playground. Earn your entries daily and return every Sunday for a chance to win a share of the $15,000 in cash prizes with a $5,000 top prize. And on July 28, one lucky winner will take home $10,000 at the $30,000 finale. Visit playground.ca for details. All right. I had a chance to talk to Michael Hage earlier this evening, and he was asked which player he likes, which player he compares himself to. And he brought up the name Jack Eichel. And I looked at him and I said, Jack Eichel's the number 1 centerman in the National Hockey League. He was drafted number 2 overall. Do you believe you can be a number 1 centerman in the National Hockey League? I mean, how do you project yourself? Let's hear what he had to say.
The number 1 centerman in the National Hockey League. He went number 2 in his draft. Do you think you can be a number 1 centerman in the National Hockey League? I mean, what do you project for yourself?
I think I'm willing to play any role that the team needs me to play, honestly. I'm really confident in my ability and the type of player that I am. And, I want to do anything that the team needs me to do to win. And, whether that's playing a different role, playing up or down in the lineup, I want to do what it takes to win and what will make me stick. So I'm pretty confident in my ability and, the way I could play the game. But, I'm going to do whatever, my coach needs me to do and what my team needs me to do to help us win.
All right, there you have it. There's Michael Hage. You got to love, if you're a team, you got to love, that answer. What an answer. I believe in myself. I have a lot of confidence, but ultimately, you know what? I'll play whatever role the team wants me to play, whether it's 1, whether it's 2, whether it's wing, whether it's this or that. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. And great question too, Tony. You always ask the best questions. So
thank you. That's nice of you to say. I appreciate that. All right. Okay. Not just another pretty face, pas juste un bel face, là. All right. Okay. Here's the one where I got to tell you, he already had some water in his eyes. Once again, for those who missed it, it's less than a year ago that Michael Hage's dad, who grew up in Montreal, a Montreal Canadiens fan, and then moved to Ontario, Tocqueville. And then I believe Michael was born and raised in Mississauga. His dad died in a swimming accident. His dad pushed him to be a hockey player, pushed him to be the player that he is, pushed him to be the person that he is. And Michael Hage dedicated this season to his late father. He had a great season. Let's bring up his hockey DB if we can. Michael Hage. Look at this. Right-handed shot, 6'1", 190 pounds, with the Chicago Steel of the USHL, 54 games, 33 goals, 42 assists, 75 points, and picked up 4 points in a couple of playoff games. He obviously had a great year, and yesterday he was rewarded by winning the E.J. Maguire Award of Excellence for character, competitiveness, and athleticism. And we told you earlier today that the Canadiens like Michael Hage a lot. And one of the reasons why they made that trade was hoping that Michael Hage would be available at 21. And if he was, they were going to take him, and he was, and they took him. So once again, listen to me and Michael Hage now. talking about the emotions that he was going through today.
Is there any way you could actually put them into words?
No, I don't think so. I think the feeling is not only getting drafted to the National Hockey League, something I've dreamed of for 12, 13 years of my life, but for it to be to the team that I grew up watching and loved, and a surreal feeling. I mean, I feel like I almost blacked out when I heard my name called, and it's a day I'll never forget.
If you could say something right now to your father, what would you say?
I mean, I hope you're proud. I think he would have been happy no matter what would have happened today, and I mean, no matter what team chose me, he would have been happy. But I think this would have put a real big smile on his face.
I don't know how you got through that question, and damn me for even actually putting him through it. I mean, if you can say something to your father right now, what would you say? And he looks at me and he says, I would tell him, I hope you're proud. And I know he would be proud because he'd want me to go to any team, but he would be really proud by going to the Montreal Canadiens. And there you have it. What a moment he lived, unfortunately, without his father. But could you imagine the character to lose your dad in your draft year?
Yeah, and I think he was there, Tony. So I mean, it was just a horrible, horrible thing altogether. So and then start the season soon after, right? Yeah. And he struggled at the start of the year, but do you blame him? He his last 29 games, he had 23 goals and 50 points. And that's after struggling like a son of a gun the first 2 months, but absolutely you could understand why. But the second half of the year, by far the most productive player in the USHL. Yeah. So I mean, I talked to a couple scouts after and I said, did you like Hage? He said, yes, a lot. They had him in their mid-teens on their draft list. So, I know what I saw your tweet earlier in the day about, the Canadiens really like him. So that's fine. But I didn't think they were going to get him at 21. I thought he'd be gone by then. So for him to be there, again, just like the Demidov one, just a coup. Like the Canadiens hit it out of the park with the first one. They needed two players that can play, that I think can play in a top six. That's their upside. Both these guys. I mean, it's a couple of years away for Hage, obviously, and you can see there that he's got to put on some weight, Tony.
For sure,
but a couple of years. I mean, the facilities at these colleges are just amazing. Yeah, and they don't play that much, so they can put, they're spending as much time or more time working out. So he's going to put on that good weight and get good tutoring and good coaching off ice. Sky's the limit for this kid.
When you play, and you just said it, when you play in the States and you play less games and you have some time off and days off between games, that's when you can put on the weight and that's when you can put on the muscle. So there's a big advantage of playing in the United States if you're looking for that. The advantage that some of the junior leagues like the Q have is if you want to end up playing more games, that's the advantage that you have in those leagues. But if you want to come across slowly but surely, want to be able to spend time in the gym, want to be able to put on some weight, want to be able to put on some muscle, huge advantage playing in the United States. I asked Kent Hughes was asked, continue, Grant. You were saying?
No, I was just going to say, that's our problem, Tony. We haven't been playing enough games, I think.
That's been the problem in my life. Now, I will tell you this, because you said he's got to put on some weight. I've seen all these kids here over the last couple of days, okay? All of them. Many of them are staying at the hotel where I'm at, but I've seen all of them. We can say that they have to put on weight for about 80% of them.
No, that's true.
Okay, Siliev probably doesn't have to, but even maybe him, he might have to. Like, most of them need to put on weight. Some of them are extremely thin. But Kent was asked, do you think that Michael Hage can be like a top six player, like a second-line centerman? And he said yes, but, we have a lot of them. And we have Owen Beck who's going to fight for that, and we have Kapanen who's going to fight for that, and obviously we got Kirby Doc, and we got Alex Newhook, and now we got Michael Hage. So tell me, as you look in your crystal ball, when the Canadiens are going to be a very competitive team that is going to take not only the next step, but really be a primetime contender, where will Michael Hage be in that puzzle?
Well, he could be on the wing. There's going to be a couple of guys that have to go to the wing. So it's
Might be Doc. He's good on the wing.
Well, Doc could stay on the wing.
Yeah.
Sure. But, he might be the second line center for the next couple of years. And if he still doesn't win more than 50% of his faceoffs, and, Beck at that point or Kapanen is ready for the spot, they'll come in for a year or two. Then Hage is ready. Maybe he supplants one of the. I bet you it'll be a carousel over the next 3-4 years till they figure out who is the second best center of the bunch.
Yeah.
But that's a great thing about having centers is it's the easiest transition in hockey to move to the wing. So they'll move guys to the wing. Maybe they'll even move or trade one or two of them. They'll have great value. So
he says that
they're stocking up.
Yeah, he says that he likes Jack Eichel. Well, who's your comparable for him?
I don't always have comparables. I haven't actually thought about it. If you gave me some time, I think about it, but just on the spot, Tony.
Okay.
I don't always just get it because everybody's different, right? I mean, I think he's a little smaller than Eichel, so I wouldn't necessarily go there. Like Eichel's 6'3" and a pretty big kid, right?
Yeah.
Hage is under 6'1", like good average size, good size, but not big like Eichel. So I wouldn't necessarily compare him to Eichel. I don't have a comparison for you off the top of my head. Sorry.
You thought, speaking of what, you thought Dean Letourneau might be available at 21 for the Canadiens. As it turned out, he was, but they go with Michael Hage. But Dean Letourneau goes a couple of picks later to the Boston Bruins. I think you really know him really well. He's a nice kid. We bumped into him, actually bumped into him and his family at the airport. Shane and I did when we arrived, and it seems like every step we make, every time we turn, we're actually bumping into them and we're seeing them.
Smile.
You know what? He's a nice kid. Is nice. His dad seems like a piece of bread as well.
They're Ottawa Valley boys, Tony, just like me. I grew up in Renfrew, and they're from Arnprior. He's the first kid from Arnprior ever drafted in the first round. Town of about 8,000. So it's a big thing for the Ottawa Valley.
Yeah, Arnprior, Trevor Timmins, right?
That's right. Yeah. Trevor's. Well, he's from Pakenham, which is just outside of, but he lives in Arnprior.
Okay.
Like he's lived in Arnprior all his adult life, and that's right. So he knew him well too. I really liked Surin too, and if it would have been up to me, I probably would have taken Surin at 21. But it's funny, the very next pick, Surin went 22 to Nashville. So
had a chance to see Trevor Timmins tonight. Second we saw each other was just so nice and so courteous. Eye contact, and he came over and he said hello, and we asked how each other was doing and the families and stuff like that, which was really nice. I also had a chance to see Marc Bergevin a couple of days ago, which wasn't as nice, and I don't think he was raised like Trevor was. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Mark has this thing right now where just the members of the media, he pretends like he doesn't really know you all that much. I think it's like our fault that he got fired, but I actually think it's because of us that he sticked around a couple of more years, maybe more than he probably should have. But anyway,
I went from
he gave me a fist pump. Okay. I saw him in the hallway. He gave me a fist pump. He was talking on the phone, I have to say, but it's not like he got off the phone. It was a fist pump. And after the fist pump, he was walking faster than I've ever seen anyone walk before in my life. I mean, the last time I saw somebody walk that fast was Tony Marinaro when the buffet table opens up at a wedding around midnight. And that was it. I mean, I was raised that I would actually say, I just bumped into a friend of mine and I'm going to have to hang up the phone and have that conversation. But he didn't. But hey, listen, everyone's different in life. What can I tell you? But I'm very happy to say that Trevor was raised
courteous.
Very courteous, very, very courteous.
Trevor's a great kid, great guy.
He's a great man. He really is.
Yeah.
Franz Jean, the goaltending coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning came over to give his regards as well. An extremely, really, not only a very competent goalie coach, in my opinion, one of the best in the National Hockey League. Obviously, Vasilevsky's coach over the last several years, but France was also very, very nice. Anyway, just in general, hockey people are really, really nice. Pat Brisson, the second that he saw Sammy, and we introduced him to Sammy, came over and took a picture with Sammy and just gave us all the time in the world as well. He was absolutely unbelievable. So many good people in hockey, but Mark was either on a very important phone call or just didn't want to stop or just had to get somewhere very, very quick. But anyway, based on what I've been hearing over the past couple of days, I'm not the only member of the media that it's happened to. It seems to be happening to absolutely everybody because it's our fault the way things ended up in Montreal, apparently. All right. Okay. Yeah.
If he'd have had a plant, he'd have hid behind it, Tony. Yeah. Remember the time that he hid behind the plant there? When
he hid behind the plant at one point. I have several in my room, as a matter of fact. I actually named one Valerie.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Valerie Plant.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
I went from Ottawa to Hull and drove with Trevor and Bergie there one time a few years back. Got a lift over. And tried to join the conversation on a couple of times, and Bergie just ignored me the whole trip. It was like, I don't talk. Only me and Bergie can talk. Like Trevor had to tell me that I wasn't even. I wasn't at the level where I could speak to Mark Bergevin. So I never really held that in all these years because he was the GM of the Canadiens. I never said anything about it, but. That was my real first impression of Mark, and I didn't cry a bunch of tears when he was let go because, I mean, Trevor tried to get me back on the staff when he was there, and it wasn't happening.
Yeah, you should have worn heels. He would have talked to you. All right, okay. Listen, in ending, you like that one? Eh? Thank you very much. You know what? I like Mark. We had a great relationship when he was here, and it was the first time that I had a chance to see him since he was no longer here. And I get it. He was on the phone, and he probably had more important things to do. But 10 seconds in your day, it's just 10 seconds, right? Okay. But anyway, that was that. All right, okay. I still look forward to having a conversation with him going forward. So let's wrap this thing up. Let's just say this. Once again, Kent Hughes says that he's going to be working the phones. He says that he's trying to make a deal to still improve the Montreal Canadiens. He has made a couple of trades over the last couple of years, of course, on draft weekend. Newhook last year and Doc the year before. What are you expecting for tomorrow? The Canadiens do not have a second round pick. Based on the quality of players in this draft, should they go out? Should they acquire one? Do you expect them to make a move? What are you expecting?
Well, without the second round pick, I'm not sure. Like I didn't figure that they'd use all their draft picks because they just have too many guys to sign, like 50 contracts, right? You can't keep having 12 draft picks every year. So I was glad that they moved up and they picked up a player that they think that they could maybe add. But I don't expect a bunch of moves. I think he was asked that tonight, wasn't he? And well, I think maybe he was talking about more tonight that he's not going to make a move, but I don't know. I think if they were going to trade for McGroarty or Line or Netcash or any of those guys, that I think it would have happened. It would have involved their first round picks. So I'm not as sure that they're going to be making any deals tomorrow, but there's always that hope. Maybe they'll try to trade up into the second round if there's someone they like or whatever, because they've got some extra picks.
It's the longest, Grant, that we've gone on the Sick podcast because, of course, we usually go Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. We're usually off by 11 p.m. Eastern, and right now it is 12:40 a.m. Eastern on Saturday morning. I want to thank you, Grant. To tell you that, look, you're all over the draft. You're all over the prospects. It was a big day for the Montreal Canadiens. There's no one else I wanted to do the podcast with you other than you tonight. So I'm really glad that you were available for me. Once again, great homework by you. You told everyone that Beckett Seneca was going to go in the top 5. Sorry? No, you're saying something. Say it. Okay. I've also been told that there's 6,000 people live on watching us at 12:40 a.m. It just goes to show the passion of Montreal Canadiens fans, not only out of Montreal, but all over the world, right? So it's the biggest numbers we've ever had. We've been working really, really hard this week. Grant, you've been working really, really hard. At least for the last year, because every year you concentrate on that year's specific draft class, right? Even though you've seen these players over the last couple of years, you put in a lot of work. You told everyone that you had a really strong feeling that Beckett Seneca was going to go in the top 5, and don't be surprised if he was going to go number 3, and he went number 3. You told everyone that you thought that Ivan Demidov was the elite talent in this draft, and clearly Jeff Gordon, Nick Bobrov, and Kent Hughes actually agree with you, because they told us the same thing tonight, that they didn't look at Macklin Celebrini because they knew they had no chance at him. But if, the next guy that was on their list was Ivan Demidov, and if they were going to have the second pick in the draft, they were going to pick Demidov, and they had pick number 5 in the draft, and they picked Demidov. So once again, subscribe to Grant's website, recruits.ca. The draft guide came out. It was over 80 pages. It was absolutely unbelievable, and that's what you can look forward to every year. In-depth interviews, scouting reports, articles, and you can be on top of everything the way he is. Grant, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add. I would imagine you and Shane are going to go with a Recruits Draftcast podcast tomorrow, or
I think so. Yeah, I hope so.
So
hopefully Shane can find the time there tomorrow.
All right. Yeah. You know what, Shane, you got to stop with the strip joints. Okay, buddy? Find time for Grant tomorrow. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You know what? The time that you spend in those clubs, all right, if you just give it to the podcast here, you can have like an 8-hour podcast with Grant. He's been there for 8 hours over the last 3 days, by the way. Not that anyone's counting. But anyway, listen, good for him. He's young. I used to be young once upon a time too. All right. Okay. These things come up every now and then on the Sick Podcast. I want to thank once again our NHL Draft Coverage 2024 live from Las Vegas is brought to you by Betway, a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on Betway.com or scan the QR code to join the action. Must be 18 and over and play responsibly. For Grant McCagg and everyone watching and everyone listening, and special thanks to Energy Transportation Group, Bittt, Tibi, and Playground. Special thanks to Shane Gaumont, Agnello Cavallaro, Rosa Mariani, Juliana Cavallaro, Anthony Marinaro, and the number 1 star of the Sick Podcast, Sammy Cavallaro, live from Las Vegas, bidding you good night. Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Ivan Demidov and Michael Hage, welcome to the Montreal Canadiens. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Sick Podcast. Yes, even though it's Saturday, I'm going to bring you one more edition of the Sick Podcast because we came here to work. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaBita.tb. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.